Hey, what's up? How are you? Tim Warner here, and I'm going to take you on a guided hands-on tour of how to create an agent in M365 Copilot. All right, what you're seeing on the screen is the M365 Copilot chat experience at m365.cloud.microsoft. First thing I want to make very clear, we're not dealing with the consumer Microsoft Copilot. We're in M365. You can see work and web up here. We've got our agent store, where we've got Microsoft provided hosted agents. We've got potentially, all of this is provisional on your M365 administrator, what they're allowing. They might not even allow the store in general, but assuming it's there, this is where you can connect to specialized LLMs. Like I have this one here that helps create surveys. I can bring it into my personal account context here, and I can begin chatting with this agent. Now, like I said, I want to make it clear that the agents that we have in M365 Copilot today, as of this recording, December 19th, 2025, are not really what I would call agents. They're shareable between you and your team. I'll show you how that works, actually. They allow you to set custom context and knowledge, which is cool. But I think the language is imprecise because over in Copilot Studio land, which is a separate license from M365 Copilot, these are what I would consider to be really more or less true blue agentic AI systems where you've got rich tool calling, including model context protocol. And we also have the ability, among other things, to call sub-agents and so on. So given those provisions, let me show you what we've got. Let's say that I'm tasked, or I at least think it's a great idea, to encapsulate knowledge on Microsoft's responsible AI pillars because our business is gradually getting more into agentic AI and LLM-based development and injecting LLM into our apps. And because if you're in the Microsoft stack, we have to ascribe to the responsible AI or RAI principles. Why not create an agent and share it with my teammates so the agent can help them when they're in Excel or Word or PowerPoint, or developers potentially even get smarter on integrating RAI. And I'm the kind of guy who likes meta. So what I've done in this conversation is that I've actually prompted M365 Copilot, just the off-the-shelf AI, to write the perfect opening prompt to create my RAI coach, an agent smart on responsible AI principles. It explains the principles in a Richard Feynman type way with lots of relevant business examples. It's going to be great at guiding software teams to practice the principles in their generative AI app development. And after a moment, I got this prompt back from the AI. Now, you don't have to use M365 for this. I'm just going to stay here in this hands-on example. And now what I'm going to do is come over to New Agent. And this interface that you're about to see is going to look really familiar to you if you've used ChatGPT and you've created custom agents. Because what you've got here is a configure surface, if you already know what you're doing, where you can start to fill in everything. And you've got the easy button approach where we can just start with a prompt, which is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to Control V to paste in that text and then start. Now, you could prompt just off the top of your head, but I like to put a lot of extra thought into my opening prompt, and something here when you're creating a new agent, it does require extra thought, and that's why I like to even go above and beyond there and use an LLM to help me create the actual opening prompt. Now, a point of confusion, notice that up here it says Copilot Studio. When you have M365 Copilot, you're licensed to use Copilot Studio in a very limited way in this experience to create these agents, which are really custom GPTs. That's a totally separate deal from what you have in copilotstudio.microsoft.com, which is the full experience and requires a separate license. And if you want to get a trial going of Copilot Studio, you might have to do a little extra work if you're not doing this in your job because you can't use a consumer MSA or Microsoft account. So what I guide people in class and in consulting contexts is if you don't have access to an Entra ID account or what Microsoft calls a work and school account, light up an Azure trial, which will give you that, or an M365 trial. And then you'll have an identity that you can start a Copilot Studio trial. Anyway, I'm back here in the light experience. Let me actually close out of my remaining tabs. And when you create it using chat going back and forth, it populates over here on the configure screen. So notice it's called RAI Coach, and we've got a description, and then we have in Markdown format. Actually, it doesn't look like Markdown because it's not obeying Markdown syntax. These should be level 2 headings, not level 1. That's actually invalid Markdown, what it's showing. Kind of surprising. Not cool. What we could try is come back to describe and say, please ensure the Markdown in the custom instructions is valid. And I'm also going to say, please include knowledge sources like let's see here, Microsoft RAI websites, MS related, MS Learn doc links, etc. I don't want to overload that prompt too much, so we'll just leave it at that. And so again, I'm going to delegate to Copilot to add that context. And while we're waiting, we can come over to the configure screen and let me scroll past the system message, which is really the most important because this custom instruction is what gives your custom agent its brain, so to speak. And for knowledge, we can do websites, which I'm instructing the LLM to get for me. But we can also bring up selected other assets. Particularly here, we can upload directly from our computer, or we can attach cloud files from, say, OneDrive or SharePoint. I'm going to use SharePoint. I'll go to my Tech Trainer Tim website, and I've got, let's see, I'm trying to remember. Oh, there it is. I don't even have them in a folder. Notice that I've got some PDFs here of Microsoft white papers. And what's going to happen is Copilot Studio Lite will vectorize or convert those files, and they could be other file types besides PDF, into a vector embedding that's natively intelligible by Copilot. So it'll speed up retrieval, and it uses RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation, under the hood. It looks like one website was populated. Let's see. To fix this, you can use Microsoft. Well, we'll just leave that alone. This is a proof of concept anyway, okay? So you want to put some thought into your instructions. You want to think about your knowledge sources. In my case, I'm going to try to curate the best resources on responsible AI I can. And the reason for this is because this grounds the LLM, so it doesn't have to go out onto the internet. And in a worst case scenario, it doesn't make anything up. That's the ideal. We've got capabilities. Do we want the LLM to be able to create stuff like docs and code? Oh yeah, definitely. Let's turn that on. Do we want it to create images? Maybe, maybe not. But as the agent owner, we would decide that. Here we have some starter prompts that the Describe experience generated for us. These are good stubs for questions and stuff that your users, or even you, if it's just going to be your own agent, are likely to ask multiple times. Let's click Create to actually deploy the agent. You'll notice here that this is a completely no-code experience. In my YouTube channel, go back in my library a little bit, and I put up a video recently explaining the 3 pillars of Microsoft's agentic AI strategy. This is the no-code option in M365 Copilot Chat. The low-code option is the full Copilot Studio, and the code-first experience is using Microsoft Foundry and the Agent Software Development Kit. Now, I'm going to click Share here. This is an important step. By default, your custom agent is not shared. I do want to share, and I really, in a real world, I would choose specific users and groups, but I'm going to open this wide to anybody in my M365 org. This agent is air-gapped within M365. Please understand that. That's a difference from Copilot Studio, where potentially, again, even the full Copilot Studio is meant for org-specific work and org internal sharing. If you're looking at public and customer-facing solutions, you're really going to want to go to Microsoft Foundry and look at code-first development there, which is going to require programming expertise. To finish this out, I'm going to swap in an icon. And to be totally candid, you know what I did before I started recording? I went over to Library here, and I had it generate an icon for me. So let me upload an icon from my computer, see if I can remember where it is on my file system. I found it. Kind of cute. So this was created right here in M365 Copilot in the, not library, in the Create experience. So check it out. It's really cool. So that'll dress up my agent, make it a little bit more recognizable, because RAI is not a particularly good name, honestly. All right, so let's let the update or our republish succeed here, and I'll show you how we can consume or use this agent. There's a direct URL link to it. We can go to the agent and start chatting with it directly, or in my case, I'm going to dismiss. Let me do a hard refresh here. And we can now see the RAI coach. That text looks a little small. In the real world in production, I would definitely put more time into the icon. Notice that I can pin this so the agent always stays visible above the fold in my agents list in M365. I can get back to share, I can get back to edit, or I can remove it. When you uninstall, the chat history that you used with the agent will be stored in the Copilot prompt gallery, private to you. All right, so let me show you how this could be useful for you and anybody that you share the custom agent with. Let's say that I'm a developer and a team lead, so I'm going to create a quick tutorial, maybe a short step-by-step, and I'm going to share this document. I'm going to call this Dev-Centric RAI Tutorial. How's that for an imaginative name? Yeah, right. Well, let me click the Copilot icon over here. And check this out. This is such a great feature of M365 and Copilot. The integration is so cool. Watch this. Instead of chatting with the off-the-shelf, I was going to say agent, off-the-shelf Copilot, which is not what we want, we can open up this navigation panel, and we've got our, well, this is showing a little bit old of a list. It's actually showing me some agents that really shouldn't be in here anymore. Oh, there it is. It took a little while. There's going to be some synchronization afoot. You know how that goes. So I've got my RAI coach right here. So let me click that. And now anything I chat to with this coach is going to go not to the off-the-shelf Copilot, but directly to my custom agent, which is super useful. I can say create, oops, let me get in there, create, or I'll say write a 1,000-page step-by-step tutorial for my engineering team. I'll say software engineering team. What I call my first law of prompt engineering is anything you leave out of your prompt will be inferred by the LLM, so you want to be as explicit as possible. Examples of how they can, well, I'm going to say first what RAI is and why they should care, and I'll say be brief, followed by several practical examples. Screenshots would be nice, or conceptual diagrams. We'll test the multimodality here. My key light is having a mind of its own up here. And before I click go, we want to think about context engineering. We might want to feed additional context into this prompt here. So again, you can upload or you can grab info from the Microsoft Graph. Any files, references to colleagues, emails, Teams messages. Don't forget about the power of context. But at the same time, another of my laws of generative AI is just because you can doesn't mean you should. Because remember, your LLMs have a context window, and if you're just dumping context in willy-nilly, you're going to fill up that window and the AI is going to get amnesic and start hallucinating. So for here, I'm just going to send the prompt into Word directly. Now, you should know, if you don't already know this, that the actual Office applications behave differently in Copilot. There's not uniformity. There's some fragmentation there. So this one is giving us a proposed structure and then asking us if we want to go ahead. In other words, the LLM did something I forgot to add into the prompt. I really, best practice, should have said, let's plan this out. Don't just go ahead and write it, but let's plan it out and use chain of thought reasoning. That key light is driving me up the wall. And look here, the AI has actually suggested exactly what I want. Start with a draft for part 1, show a practical example, give a template. I'm going to choose show a practical example. I'm going to say write a draft of the entire piece because I'm running out of time. I'm telling the AI exactly what I'm all about here, that I'm pressed for time, which is true. I don't want to have super long YouTube content. That doesn't benefit a lot of people. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the generation. Unfortunately, Word doesn't write directly into the document, which is probably a decision rather on the part of the Word Copilot engineering team, because they don't want to just step on your work. You could have a draft already in the doc. So look here, add to doc is what I want. So I'm going to click that, and that fills it in. It gave me 470 words, which is not what I asked for. Now, in the real world, I would do a couple more conversational turns saying, look, I need this to get to 1,000 words without padding. You see, that's another concern. But let's go back to the beginning and give this a quick eyeball and see. So it's going to focus on a practical example, setting up Foundry. I love that it gave me placeholders for screenshots. As a trainer, that's very useful because sometimes I'll know I need a screenshot and I have to think about how best to compose it. Using the LLM for that help can be super helpful. It's not formatting the code for me, but I can do those fix-ups myself. It's using Python. Maybe I wanted to use Node or C#. I could go back and just say quickly, I'll do it right now. Swap in Node instead of Python, please. And it'll give me stuff that I can go back and forth on. Add prompt injection defense. Yeah, so this is a great, if nothing else, it's a great first draft. So in closing, if you pardon the evangelization or getting up on the proverbial soapbox, make sure that we as humans stay in the loop here. We're not going to just pass this document off because you're standing behind anything that the AI generates for you. Remember that that's under your name. So we absolutely want to get into the mire here and make sure, in my case, put on my editor hat and make sure that this output, I'm going to bolster it and go back and forth with my own language as well as generated from the AI until it's chef's kiss. So there you have it. That is the tutorial on using custom agents in M365 Copilot. I hope that you enjoyed this and it was helpful. Please like and subscribe, etc. I really do appreciate you for that. And if you've got ideas for additional stuff you want to learn, let me know in the contents. I'm a learner-focused instructor. All the best to you. Thanks. Bye.